You're listening to The Edge with Mark Thompson. Join us on the web at edge-show.com.
Hello, and thanks for being with us on our last show of the year. And we bring Bobby Slayton in as is sort of a weird holiday tradition. I say weird because it's not like a big Yuletide or year-end show in any way, except for the fact that Slayton started coming by. I love Bobby, and I hope you do too. And if you don't know Bobby or haven't heard him before, I think you'll love him. There's something lovable in his attitude. There's nothing like super Yuletide, bright and Christmassy or holiday or whatever you want to call it about Bobby, but his disregard for political correctness and his general disposition toward life is special. He's got a life story now that's got a couple of twists that are wild. Anyway, Bobby will be in. It is a holiday tradition for Bobby Slayton to be here. They call him Pitbull of comedy for a reason. He has an aggressive style, and as I say, he's not politically correct. So if you think that's going to offend you in some way, then this is probably not the podcast for you to listen to, this episode. But I don't think there's anything that anyone's going to find too horribly offensive. Now, Michael Shure kicks us off. It's our last talk with Michael Shure for the year. He is our political analyst, and we talk about the Michael Flynn thing. Now we see a government shutdown happening in Washington, and you may at first blush not see the connection between Michael Flynn and the government shutdown. And the truth is, though, that Michael Flynn was big news, and a lot of the information coming out of the Michael Flynn deal that he's made, sort of the additional agreement that he's made with the judge, that would have stolen a lot of headlines, as with the resignation of Defense Secretary James Mattis. But because of the government shutdown, a lot of that stuff is getting sort of pushed to the side. That said, Michael Shure has some interesting takes on the Michael Flynn exchange with the judge and what the likely next steps will be. And there's certainly plenty of analysis of the government shutdown, and you can find it pretty much everywhere you turn. So this is a chance to maybe review a couple of other items on the agenda that kind of got passed over quickly. And we also mention Penny Marshall as she passed away. And one weird fact about this episode, comedian Judy Gold, who bears no relation to anyone who has contributed to this podcast or to me. I'd never even met Judy Gold. She oddly gets 2 mentions on this episode. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing the show. Thank you for supporting the show. We don't take any commercial sponsorships, as you know, and we offer you this podcast commercial-free every week. And we do it because we don't want to be controlled by sponsors, and we want you to support us if you are able in the different ways that I sketch out at the beginning of every episode. Thank you to Kayla, who sent us a little something and appreciated the Jane Velez-Mitchell episode, which has a lot to do with animal rights and animal activism. We'll try to do some of that. I try not to fill too many episodes with the vegan stuff or animals. It does come up a lot, but you'll notice mostly other people bring it up. But when we do a dedicated episode like we did with Jane, it's nice to see that some people appreciate it, and we'll try to get some more in the new year. Go to our website. You'll see all the ways you can support us, edge-show.com. And now, without any further delay, Michael Shure and then comedian Bobby Slayton. Thanks again for being here. Let's get started.
This is The Edge.
The advantage, it means.
They let guy just spit on me for no reason.
That's horrible.
Is there some comfort in uncertainty, do you think?
You're a degenerate.
Because Australian Shepherds need action.
Wow. Yeah.
This is The Edge.
That's a self-loathing term that I use.
Oh, got it.
edge-show.com. Stupid. Why is there a dash?
edge-show.com.
We love him. He's our political analyst, and he's so much more than just that, isn't he, everybody? He is Michael Shure.
Oh, thank you. I don't want to be limited to just political analysts, but let's talk politics.
Yeah, well, there's so much going on, and it's not just politics. It's what's going on in our nation. Now, Michael Flynn just went through what he thought was sort of the presumptive sentencing hearing that was going to go on in court. Actually got dressed down by the judge for his essentially selling the country out, is the way the judge put it.
Yeah, it could be a dressing down, or the judge could have done him the biggest favor he could ever do to Michael Flynn, or give to Michael Flynn as well. So there's that side of it as well.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, Michael Flynn went in for sentencing, and he didn't get sentenced. He went in thinking he wasn't going to get very much prison time because Robert Mueller, the special counsel, has urged, or recommended, I should say, not urged, that he get the minimal amount of prison time time required for his charges, which is 0 to 6 months. And he made that recommendation, or the office made the recommendation, because of how cooperative Flynn has been over the course of 19 interviews. That said, it's up to the judge and how to sentence, and the judge interpreted the misdoings of Michael Flynn as being worthy of a sentence, a prison sentence. He made it clear he was going to give him a prison sentence, also allowed him to extend this sentencing, to request a delay, and to mull over whether there's more that he could be telling that he hasn't told. He could have sentenced him to prison, but as soon as Flynn heard that that was in the cards, he and his team said, you know what, maybe we should rethink this.
So when you say he's doing him a favor potentially, you mean that he can now
continue speaking with the special counsel, now continue being cooperative, because he hasn't done enough, according to what this judge, way the judge saw it.
In hopes
that when he comes back on March 6th, hey, thank you again. You went back, you did more, and we're appreciative, and you're not going to jail.
You know, Flynn had a very close relationship with Russia, right?
Yeah.
He spoke at a huge conference in Russia. $45,000.
He represented Ukrainians. So
while he was serving in the transition team.
That's right.
I mean, is that illegal? I mean,
it's not illegal if you don't.
It's improprietous.
It's improprietous. You have to divulge it, and you have to be forthright about it. And even the judge made a mistake yet about the timing of when he was doing those things. When he was not registered as a foreign agent. Was he in the White House? No, it wasn't at the same time. The judge came back and said I was wrong about that. Nonetheless, it casts a nasty odor.
He was warned, Trump was, about Michael Flynn.
He was warned by President Obama.
President Obama, who Trump has not only no respect for, but utter disdain for, as
Correct.
It turns out.
And listen, the Michael Flynn that America knows is the one who was a big campaigner for the president, who went into the administration, part of the transition. All of that, it could safely be believed, is a result of the fact that Barack Obama fired him, and that there has been this chip on his shoulder forever, and he took it way, way, way too far in his almost crazed support, maybe one rung lower than Rudy Giuliani's support of Donald Trump during the election.
He left the court yesterday to chance of lock him up. He had led chance of lock her up when he was at
Correct.
the
I mean,
Republican
to some
convention.
people, it's sweet irony to see him as the one who may be going to prison.
Can we just take like a kind of a jetliner view of all this? This whole thing with being in bed with the Russians. The thing that really concerns me about this is that there's another agenda here besides being an advocate for America. You are trying to feather your own bed. You're trying to make money. You have deals that are being served.
Right.
As opposed to, so when you're building American policy, you're doing it to favor yourself as opposed to worrying about what's best for America.
I don't know. I don't know that I agree with that as opposed to. I think it's an along with. I think when you run for mayor, and you could, if let's say you're working for you're a lawyer, right? And you run for mayor of a small town community. You're leaving a lot of money on the table. You're leaving a lot of security on the table by running for mayor and not working at a law firm or hanging your own shingle. Part of that is, when I do this, it will, burnish my resume, and I will come out a better candidate than I was going in. So I don't find any problem in using the politics as a stepping stone to another chapter in one's life, because I do think that there is a sacrifice for it too, and you do make a lot of contacts, and there is a payback for it, and not everybody does it that way. There are always exceptions. There's some people who make it a career, and that's all they want to do. There's some people who do it without thinking about what's going to be next. And then there's some people who do this. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's when you do it in such a way as you are flaunting the law, and you are doing it in a way that undermines American policy, as the Judge Sullivan indicated Flynn was doing, then it's a problem.
Well, I guess that's kind of what I'm saying. In your mayoral example, if I'm the mayor of the town and I'm in bed with a developer, and the developer wants to set up a bunch of apartment buildings and a mixed-space office complex in an area that, let's say, is a pristine habitat for fill-in-the-blank wildlife, but I'm in bed with this. Meaning, when I say I'm in bed, I mean I've got a relationship with them.
Right.
I used to work at the firm, I consult with the firm, whatever it may be, and I push through that project, or make that project Agenda 1, and I tell everybody else to leave the room. By the way, that's what Trump did with Putin, right?
Right. Telling everybody to leave the room is a different way of doing it. And I'm interrupting, but you didn't really finish. But I know what you're saying. Those are the two approaches. I mean, you're talking about the jetliner. line of review. Those are the two approaches to American politics. There's some people who will say, hey, go to it, Mayor. You're bringing 440 new jobs to build the buildings, and then they're going to house people, and they're going to pay taxes, and then our property taxes are going to go down because of that. All for it. Then there's some people who are saying, "Oh my God, there is a spotted salamander in those marshlands in which you're going to build. It's going to kill the ecosystem that allows the salamander to live." They're right too, but that's what it makes American politics too.
Right. That gets into the example, the specifics. I've chosen environmental example, but it doesn't have to be.
It could be eminent domain. It could be
right. It could be a bunch of small stores and shops that are now going to be bulldozed.
Correct.
For the complex. Leave the salamander out of the equation. I guess what I'm trying to say is it doesn't best serve the community, arguably. But you would say, yeah, maybe it doesn't, but maybe it does best serve the community.
Mark, I would take your side in all of those fights against the developer. But if it's done legally, if it's done down proper avenues, there is a side to be taken for what the development does for the community as well.
And I guess all I would say on this example, and then we can move on, is I just don't want the reason for the development to be the mayor's connection to the developer. In fact, the mayor should probably recuse himself from this issue.
If he and the developer are friends, if there's some things that are hard to litigate in those situations, because when you're running for mayor, you may meet every developer in town, and if you had a developer at your cocktail party who gave $2,300 to your campaign, who is a nice guy, he's a businessman, and then you approve development and he gets the bid, maybe the mayor should recuse himself, but that's also the way things go.
Right. And I'm also saying that they're not, in that example, I don't care if they're friends. I assume a guy running for mayor is friends with a lot of people because you got to become friends with everybody to win the election. But what I mean is if he's serving on the board of this developer or there's another financial relationship. So
of course. Yeah, no, absolutely there should be. And I think that as we take this back to the players who've been playing on the national scene now, people like Michael Flynn and Paul Manafort as well, that's hugely problematic. And these are people who, first of all, who weren't running for anything, who were trying to get someone elected for their betterment in nefarious ways. And so I would argue that, yes, absolutely, there is a huge problem with it. And there's something about running for the office and sitting in the office or being someone who leeches off of the office holder, and that's different.
I want to now move on to, is there any more, but first of all, we've talked about Flynn, and I feel it's been reviewed, but I did want to check off on it with you.
Yeah. Is there any more? Very, very quickly, Robert Mueller still hasn't issued his report. So all of this is happening, and we haven't gotten the report yet. So I think that it's important to remember that, what does this mean? What does this mean? We don't know what any of it means because we haven't gotten the report. The most telling thing that has happened recently is Michael Cohen's allocution, where he said that, yes, I was a liar. Now I'm telling the truth. My truth will be supported by a lot of corroborating testimony. We haven't heard a whisper of that. I believe Cohen because he wouldn't have said that in anticipation of it not corroborating.
The one thing I would say about Mueller is, and it's really interesting you should bring him up, in the context of Flynn, I agree. We haven't heard from him, and there's a lot of hope hung on this Mueller thing. He's sort of been deified as this guy who is going to truly provide evidence of every wrongdoing in this administration and with their associates. But in the Mueller recommendation that Flynn should be allowed to skate without jail time is sort of a hint that Mueller may not be the answer to all of your prayers if you're looking for everybody to be dressed up in an orange suit and led away.
No, I don't think that. If you are looking for everyone to be dressed up in an orange suit, you're not going to get that from the special counsel because he's only making recommendations. He's handing, where there's something prosecutable, he's handing it over to prosecutors. He is not a special prosecutor. He's a special counsel, and he can only make recommendations. He can't prosecute. That said, he's made some, and they've stuck, and courts have found that they work. And he's also been leak-proof, so there's a lot going on behind those walls. Here's one thing. Don McGahn, the president's counsel, testified for Robert Mueller. He knows a lot. He, I think, at the end, and we'll know when it happens, this is a prediction not coming from any kind of information or sources, I think he is going to wind up being the biggest player in this at the end, who the president will have the hardest time working around.
McGahn, you think, will be?
McGahn. That's just my prediction. Now, that's purely,
The Trump administration is moving to ban bump stocks?
Yeah, that's right. But let's put it in perspective here. Thousands of Americans are not dying every year because of bump stocks, right? To me, it's a small fix that gets them to do a victory lap and say, hey, we're bipartisan, we got rid of bump stocks. It's great. It's a stupid thing to be in existence. It's great that if they can figure out how to enforce it, great if they can stop the sale of it, or the manufacture of it. But that's not gun control. That's getting rid of bump stocks, and that's so I don't want people to say, oh, look how far we've come on guns. Everything helps. That was a big part of the worst shooting in American history, the worst random shooting in Las Vegas. But that's not been a big problem with most shootings in America, and why we have gun issues in America is not because we have bump stocks.
Yeah, they can wave that flag after the bump stock thing.
Right.
Although I think it worth noting that gun lobby groups are contesting it. I mean, vigorously contesting it.
Of course. I mean, it's like late-term abortion. They feel like the gun lobby groups probably don't care very much about bump stocks. Pro-choice groups didn't care terribly about late-term abortions. It's an ugly thing to have to defend for them. But every time you give an inch, they see it as giving a mile. So that's then what's next? So they get rid of bump stocks, and then they're coming for the next thing. Let's keep fighting bump stocks.
Right. It's a slippery slope type argument. I know you're on a tight schedule, so I kind of want to get you out of here. Is there anything else you want to? I feel like I should get something light.
Well, it's light. It's sad, but it's light because it was Laverne.
Penny Marshall died, 75 years old. First of all, that seems a little young these days.
It does seem young.
And she was. I didn't realize she got her break from her brother, Gary Marshall.
Yeah. I did know that, and she was married to Rob Reiner. I don't know. She was a very big part of sort of I don't know. I mean, maybe people are saying this. I haven't read anything about it, but she was like the next Lucille Ball. When Lucille Ball was just in black and white when I was a kid, then Laverne and Shirley came on, and there weren't many funny women. There was Carol Burnett, and then there was Laverne and Shirley, and they came on the heels of Happy Days, which was a 50s show. They were a 50s show, also set in Milwaukee. There was some crossover. It was really funny, and that 1 hour of television, Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley, was a staple, certainly for me, that I would watch it when I was allowed to stay up and watch.
Well, what you learn, and you learn so many things when somebody dies. I learned in the obit that was the #1 show in America for a couple of years.
Laverne and Shirley was so over Happy Days.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. That is amazing. I didn't read the obit, but I didn't know that. Anyway, so she was an important part of making people laugh, and also probably inspirational for women in comedy, and then women directing. She directed A League of Their Own, which was a great movie, and she went on and directed other films. So I'm not a movie buff, but when you had somebody who kind of broke a lot of those molds, whether she got it through nepotism or not, she was clearly talented, and she was really damn funny when she was on Laverne and Shirley.
I have read a lot from female comics who say that she almost gave them permission to be funny, that she lifted a whole generation of comics. She had that thick Brooklyn accent.
Yeah.
You could identify with her.
Yeah.
I think it was Judy Gold who stated it in a column that she gave us permission, us normal, kind of awkward-looking, awkward-sounding,
right,
New York-y type people, to be funny. Women, I'm talking about.
Yeah. People always say those sorts of things. Gave us permission. There was Lucille Ball, right, and there was Carol Burnett, and there was Joan Rivers, and there were female comics. But there was something about taking the baton and moving it a little further. So listen. I'm not a female comic. I'm never going to be one. Judy Gold knows more about it than I. But I do think that that we tend to overstate those things. It's like, oh, she made it possible. Yeah, Jackie Robinson made it possible for black people to play in baseball. There's no question about it. Lucille Ball more than Penny Marshall did that. But Penny Marshall did a great job taking over for Lucille Ball and carrying on the legacy of a lot of those female comics who wouldn't have.
I think that you make a great point. I guess all I was saying is that it was noted that she sort of looked and sounded like others.
Right. No, that's true. Like when you talk like this and you're from Brooklyn, you don't think there's really a future. And look, Penny Marshall.
Right.
Yeah, I see that.
But Lucille Ball was glamorous, and she had to kind of dirty herself up, I think.
Well, that's true. Yeah. But she was definitely funny, and she. I think for female comics, a lot of them would probably say that making men laugh and making it okay for men to laugh and come see you and want to watch you was a big step for them at that time. And that was what Lucille Ball did probably better than a lot of people for the first time for a lot of people.
Yeah, the Penny Marshall movies I suppose, big and
Yeah.
League of Their Own. She did Awakenings. You remember
Oh,
that?
wow, yeah.
That was a
That I wouldn't have known.
heavy movie with
Yeah.
De Niro and
Right.
Robin Williams. Very, very good.
Yeah, that was a very heavy movie.
So a sad loss, and I am kind of always, I guess, diabetes, and
Yeah.
it's just, it's brutal. Life gets tough.
It does. I mean, it doesn't have to, and it's terribly unlucky. 75 is, and it's not because I'm older now, but 75 is I still think looked at as a pretty young age to go these days.
Yeah.
Especially for women who tend to live longer.
Yeah, I'm looking for at least an 8 in front of people's ages now.
Exactly. Before I say, even like 82. Somebody died who was 82 recently. I was like, 82. But 82 is 82.
Yeah, but I do think you're right. 82 even is starting to feel like, hey,
Right. Yeah. I look for 9 to me is the old age. He says optimistically.
I am grateful for the time we spend with you. I want to say, just to the audience, that this is our last visit with you for the year. And you'd give generously of your time. And it's not easy, and I'm having to text you constantly going, can you do it now? Can you do it now? And you are all over the country and all over the world.
No, just the country. Well, partially the world.
I know you went to the Middle East earlier this year. Anyway, this is a long way, because it's the only way I know. I don't know the long ways of saying thank you very much.
I wouldn't do it if I didn't love doing it. I love the podcast. I love you. Not in, well, I guess in that order. But truthfully, above more than all of them, you guys are just the best. The audience, the ones that come in and watch us,
yes,
as well as the ones who listen to the podcast.
A lot of feedback, very positive feedback on you. So, ladies and gentlemen, for the last time in this year, Michael Shure!
Thank you. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Enjoy them. Be safe.
This is The Edge with Mark Thompson.
And now the Pitbull of comedy, Bobby Slayton.
When you're ready, I'm ready. If you guys are ready.
Yeah, okay, Jesus Christ, you got someplace to be? Man, you are really...
I'm going to my girlfriend's. Well, after this, I go home. I was hoping we would have cocktails after this, but...
I might have time we'll start right now.
I don't have time for cocktail. I got to get home.
Oh, okay.
My girlfriend's making...
You were just waiting for me to...
Do what Italians and the Irish do. We drink fast. Come on.
First, I want to, before I introduce Bobby Slayton, because I know once I introduce Bobby, there'll be no stopping. Lisa Foxx, thank you for joining us today.
Yes!
Yeah, we love you.
Love her!
And now, with Lisa introduced, feel free to dip in anytime. We do have some questions for you about your life.
It's killing me not to be introduced. It's killing me to sit here for over almost a minute without getting an introduction.
And a whole 60 seconds.
And in that spirit, I want to say one more thing about Lisa, if I can. No, I'm kidding. Ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Slayton!
Thank you. Hey, by the way, when you called me the other day, you called me a couple of weeks ago, and you said we want to do our annual Christmas show. We have you on every Christmas. Did you have me on last Christmas?
Yeah, you're in you don't realize it, but you're in every December.
Really? And the checks are rolling in, Lisa, let me tell you.
What are you taping phone conversations? He doesn't even know, or what?
I knew that he wouldn't know that.
Thank God for the radio.
This is like just another thing that he does between lunch and cocktails. But to us, this is a special holiday visit that you do every year.
Actually, interesting today. I had a cocktail before coming in instead of,
Usually we chase it with martinis over at...
I get here early. I'm always on time. I'm always early. I've always been very anal like that.
Does that favor you think, or do people... You know what I mean? Have you found that to be a successful way to be? Or that's just the way you are. You don't do it for any...
I'm always early. I'm always worried about being late for stuff. Because I have a girlfriend who was always late. I had a wife that was always late. I had a daughter that's always late. Every broad I know is always late. And me too. Hashtag.
Well, it takes longer for us to get ready. Come on.
Yeah, I know. Well, then start earlier. I'm not going to have this conversation. Believe me, we've gone through this conversation a million times. And don't ever say to us, does this go? Does this look good? Does this go? Yeah, it goes. Go is the key word.
How's
we have
it look?
to go.
How does this look?
You know what
does it look good?
You know what I used to do all the time, and I do it with my girlfriend now? If we have to go anywhere, and I did this when I was married because my wife would sometimes take me to the airport, I would always tell her my flight was an hour before it was, and she knows I like to get there early. So, and she was never on time, but that was okay. Because, I said that
because you lied.
What?
You had to lie.
Well, it was. I don't call it lying. I call it self-preservation, so I can make my goddamn plane. It was for me. It wasn't lying. That's how women. That's why you twist things around.
Yeah. Well, Bobby.
Happy holidays.
Lisa, Bobby. I don't know if you're aware of this, but tragically, his wife died. He had a really successful marriage and, lovely.
Wait, let's back up for a second. Yeah, she died. Who said anything about a successful marriage? We're married for a long time.
How long were you together for?
30 years.
I thought that was successful. But
And with the wind chill factor, it's like 100. No, it wasn't so much successful. It was a matter of, again, self-preservation. I liked my house, my dog, my kid, my stuff. So it was a matter of just holding on to things. But I mean, I did love her, but,
no greater.
There goes that story.
No greater tribute to the fallen wife than the fact that you were just worried about losing half your
start off
stuff.
the holiday show with my dead wife. Thanks, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I was making the point that you also met another a widow, right? And that's how they met at the funeral of her husband, of Bobby's friend. Yes. That's why they were in attendance.
There's some kind of a connection then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well.
Not like hotwidows.com? Is that
That would have been
dating
the way to
website?
go.
It was a really, I'm getting tired of telling the story, but it's so fascinating. I tell people all the time when anybody says to us, how did you guys meet? Basically, I went to the funeral of my friend, like Mark said, and I known the guy for 40 years. I never knew his wife. They were married for 15 years. But, it was the kind of thing where, you don't really see people in L.A. I was on the road all the time. And when I wasn't on the road, I was home raising my child. And when I was raising my child, I just want to be in my bed, watch my TV. So I travel so much, so, hey, we'll have lunch. We'll get together. And you never do. So I'd see my friend Larry once in a while. But the point was, I never met his wife. So after 15 years, I met her at the service they were having for him. And my wife was still alive. We went there and I said, why? You didn't expect Larry to have such a pretty young wife, young and pretty. And there was nothing to it. But anyway, my wife passed 3 months later, and I called her up to invite her to the service for my wife, and she couldn't make it. And
your motives were pure. I mean, your motives were you just want to include her.
It wasn't for a date. I wasn't looking to date. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. I wasn't looking to get myself involved again. I mean, the silver lining to the cloud was, even though my wife was gone, there were 3 or 4 months when you could do whatever you want to do. You could watch TV. You could have breakfast for dinner or dinner for breakfast. You got to
after your wife. Now you're talking about after your wife passed away. You can do whatever you want.
You're saying you're on your own. You're not responsible to anyone or anything.
Well, it wasn't like I was whipped, but you still, honey, what do you want for dinner? Well, I don't really want that. What are you in the mood for? What time do you want to eat? You're snoring. I wasn't beholden to anybody for anything. So there's something to be said after 32 years. That my daughter had grown up, my wife was out, dead, so I had the whole house to myself. Anyway, I meet this woman, and I asked her out for a drink. It was an innocent thing, just asking her out for a drink, because we're kind of neighbors. We live literally 5 minutes apart. And Los Angeles,
that still takes 2 hours to get there.
Well, actually, it's really, really close. I'm in Sherman Oaks. If she was in Santa Monica, this never would have happened.
No.
I never would have pursued this.
Got to be geographically desirable.
Yeah.
But and the other thing you had in common was that you'd obviously lost your longtime spouse.
But that's not what brought us together. It was
alcohol.
When I met her, I tell you about that always helped. I took her out for dinner. And I said to my brother, who was sleeping on my couch at my house, I said, I just met this girl, and I think I fell in love. He goes, what are you, nuts? Because it was only 4 or 5 months later. And I told her, I said, I think we're going to be together. And she thought I was crazy. I mean, she was right, but not for that reason. But and we've been together, it's been almost 2.5 years already.
Nice.
Yeah, you really seem, this seems like a long hauler.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. That's why I said we should have a cocktail afterwards. And I said, I can't, because I told her I'd go over to her house, because she'd bring home Chinese food. And she said, well, if you want to, and she was perfectly fine with me having a cocktail with you. But at the same time, I just kind of want to go.
You want to see her.
Yeah, you can't wait to be with her, which is nice.
Well, no, she's got a really nice fireplace and some great wine, and she's got an 8-ball.
That's not why. So you don't live together yet? You don't think that's
No.
going to happen? No.
She was 5 minutes apart. So it's no. And I'm in my house by myself. She's in her house by herself. And it's great. And my dog, we're both big dog people. And she's crazy about her dog. And I was crazy about my dog, who I had to put down a couple of months ago. And it was much tough. I hate to say this, but I miss my dog more than my wife.
Hey.
I went to the shelter, got a rescue wife. That's not a big deal. To get another dog that you love, it's tougher.
I think that you make a good point about the difficulty with which you go through the process of, we say putting the dog down or whatever, of having to put the dog to sleep, whatever the euphemism is for it. But it's an awful thing.
It's awful.
It's just a horribly difficult thing.
I mean, look, there's people who lose children to leukemia, there are people who lose spouses to, and this happens all the time. It's horrible. So a dog's a dog, and you're going to lose them.
Well, your animal is, a family member, and sometimes you never get over it. So.
I never got that.
Don't ask me about my cat, because it's not going to be pretty.
Cats don't.
Cats totally count.
How dare you?
Oh, really?
No, they
yeah, that's
all
right. You have a
matter.
cat.
Yeah.
That's right. Whatever. But But yeah, it was very tough. So anyway, just to be in a house now by myself, because the dog was like having a child.
How old was the dog?
He was 15.
Oh, so
Very
that's
cute
a
little
long
thing,
too. Nice little life
time.
and-
Yeah.
Would you get another dog, though?
No. I just was talking right before we did your show. I was talking to a friend of mine who just lost his 2 dogs a year and a half ago, and he said he can't. I know a lot of people do that. They have more dogs. You know, people do that all the time, and rescue dogs. It's a blessing to do something like that. I can't live through the aggravation, the cost, the responsibility. You know, travel on the road and put them in a kennel, and they're a lot of work.
Oh, I
Well,
see.
yeah.
So that's a different thing. I thought you were saying that I can't get past the emotion. Like, I can't get to another. It's like I'll never date again type thing.
I don't want to be attached to it. Well, like I said earlier, by the way, happy holidays. Dead dogs, dead wives.
Yeah.
By the way,
Stuff.
so
Warm and fuzzies.
every holiday you ask me to come on, and what I'm going to do this holiday, here's my plan for this year. I am not going to be a vegan like you because I think it's ridiculous. Only going to eat animals who are vegans. Chickens and cows. I'm not going to eat any like lions or anything like. Not even.
You're not going to eat a carnivore.
Yeah, I love being a carnivore. I can't.
You're right though. You are, when you eat meat, that's just a middleman for the vegetation that they eat. They are all vegan. The ones you're eating.
So I like to just, is it vegan or vegan? Vegan.
Vegan. Yeah, but it's all right. You do whatever you got to do. You've got a real. I would never try to change you. It would be a waste of time.
I would never try to change you.
Exactly. So.
Because you.
Now, Lisa, you on the other hand, no.
Oh, I dare you to try, sweetheart.
No,
What, are you a
Lisa's
vegan too?
No.
I have gone the way of the vegetarian.
I didn't know that.
The super annoying title of pescatarian. It's so pesky, but I do like fish. I still eat
Fine.
fish.
Okay.
but
You're right
pescatarian.
halfway between us. I do not eat a lot of red meat. I am not crazy about eating red meat. I know with the carbon footprint, what it does to your system, what it does to the world, so I try to do it on a limited basis. At the same time, my whole thing is if rabbits and cows and pigs and chickens could eat us, they would. So fuck them.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of strategy than just how.
I'm trying to reason this.
I know it's okay. Well, I mean, and sometimes I don't know. I lost a taste for it, so I joined kind of his team, and so now when I see it make me sad. So it's a weird thing.
Well, that's nice.
But,
She sees the whole creature, but this isn't about that.
Happy holidays.
I'll tell you what other happy thing happened. Lisa here had some kind of throat hemorrhaging thing, and you said you kept going like 7 days a week.
Yeah, I end up, and maybe I don't know if you've ever had one of these either, Bobby.
Well, that's kind of why I want to mention it, Bobby, because if anybody should have a throat hemorrhage, it's Slayton.
Yeah.
Listen to that.
I had
It sounds like
something.
he's having one now.
Wait. What is a throat hemorrhage?
It's a vocal cord hemorrhage. So essentially, I was a little sick after we had our iHeart Radio Music Fest in Vegas. A little sick, but then I just kept pushing out every night, charity events every night, this thing every night, 7 days a week, wedding on the weekend, this place on the weekend, like 7 days a week, going. It's still it had a Bobby sound kind of to
It's
it.
from abusing your vocal cord.
It was right. It was raspy, but I was also unofficially training to sing the national anthem in an upcoming Dodgers game.
That's what did it. You're trying to sing the national anthem?
And I blew it out so bad. I waited 5 weeks until I went to a doctor, and he said, if you would have waited much longer, you could have done permanent damage and needed surgery. And I was like, holy crap. I had no idea you could do possibly permanent damage on your own with your lifestyle, just the go, not even letting it get enough rest. So
Yes, I was very lucky. No, I had nodes taken off my vocal
You
cords
did.
a few times. And that's where there's certain singers, I think like Rod Stewart and certain people have always had nodes or have had them removed and they get that rest. So now since they're removed, and because I used to smoke so much and work in so many smoky nightclubs, and I would scream on stage as a comic, not quite Sam Kennison screaming, but and not using my breathing techniques like singers learn how to do that.
Yeah.
I was always talking from my throat and from, and so I hurt my vocal cords a few times, and now I don't do that so much anymore. I don't work as much. I don't yell as much. But my vocal cords now, I sound like this because they're calloused. So that's why.
I didn't realize
So they
that.
can't do anymore. There's no more surgery that they
I
can
hope
do.
not.
You go in there and just file it down like a callus.
No, it sounds fine.
Yeah, well,
Sounds like Bobby Slayton.
yeah. They said I could get rid of this. I could talk higher if I cut my balls off. That I could have a higher voice. But I didn't want to go that way either. So I'm just happy with this. For I'm not working as much as I used to. But and you can't smoke in clubs. You remember when you get on even on an airplane, and I thank God that they got rid of that.
'Cause it was
and you have a
everywhere.
smoking section in a restaurant or a plane or a movie theater. It's not like the smoke can't travel down 4 rows to you.
Yeah.
So every night I would come home reeking of tobacco.
So you never actually smoked, or you were just
I did a long time
little
into
bit.
my 20s, between, pot and more tobacco, but I quit a long time ago. But
Always
So-
around it. Always around it.
Yeah, always around it, in radio studios, and everybody was always smoking. Nobody thought about that back then.
Yeah.
So
And here we all are. And I'm just grateful I got it back. It was 2.5 weeks mandatory vocal rest, which was hell.
Who's your ear, nose, and throat guy?
Dr. Sean Nasseri. So one of the many.
Dr. Nasseri is my guy too, and I have
not a Jew, not good.
Does it matter? I mean,
It has to be a Jew. No, it doesn't.
oh my God.
No, but he gave me the same advice, and here's what happened. I got cast to host 22 episodes. You seldom get a pickup for a network show where you get 22 episodes on a game show right away.
Especially somebody like you who has no talent.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Aw,
that's
he's
just
so
really-
good at it. Come on.
And so I got 22 episodes, and it's the biggest game show audience in the history of television. 650 people in the audience. And I mentioned that not as a brag, but because of what happened next.
You should have said that more dramatically. In the history.
In the history of television.
There it is.
So they were so loud that as host, I'm yelling. Really, and I can't hear myself at all.
Did you say the name of the show yet? Can we know?
It was called Hole in the Wall.
Wait, what was that on?
You can still see it, I think, on Netflix or what?
You still get checks for it?
No, no. I don't think I do. But just because we're digressing, checks and, whatever, can you still see it? It was the #1 game show and the #1 format across the world at the time.
Gosh.
When they brought it to America, it was viewed as this can't miss, right? And it was being produced by Fremantle, the people who produce American Idol.
Right.
So the plan was to run it after American Idol. So I'm thinking, this is going to be amazing. Got this format. It's #1. It's going to run after American Idol. Can't miss. So, just because I've started that, I'll finish.
Yeah, I want to
There was
finish.
success of this show called Wipeout at the time. The show
remember
Wipeout?
that.
I remember.
Okay, where these people are running down a course and these big arms come by and they
They gotta
swing
try to
and-
dodge it,
Yeah, they
yeah.
got to dodge it. So that show was so hot that Fox said, we can't wait till January to put this on after Idol. We want to get this show on now because this is a big show. Physical, also walls come at people and people are trying to get through the hole in the wall, right? So they threw it onto the air with no promotion, nothing. And we just, in
Died.
fact, we came on a Sunday night after football. You know how when football runs long, they go, on the West Coast, you'll see your normal programming,
Right.
but the East Coast is where most of the ratings are, and they joined the show in progress. So it's just like a total,
They didn't get it.
just awful. So anyway, we didn't have it. You can tell by the way I'm describing it that the show was like
Going downhill.
done. But anyway, back to night 1 on their screaming. And by the 3rd show we did, my voice was shot. I mean, completely
How many were you doing
shot.
in one day? Sometimes you do like 3 and 4 a day.
Yeah, we were doing multiple shows. I forget, but at least 3, maybe more. Maybe it was 4.
You were killing yourself.
And I couldn't speak, and I literally showed up for work the next day, and I was sounding like I couldn't speak. So I went to your same doctor. Dr. Sean Nasseri. First of all, you do have that thing where you panic going, oh my God, they're going to replace me. I finally got a break, 22 episodes, and now they're going to call Bobby Slayton or something to host it. You know what I mean? But
Got to be
Forget
desperate to
that
do that.
guy. Screw him.
But so I'm all that anxiety, but production had to shut down anyway for another reason. So we had until the following Monday. Blah, blah, that was like 4
So you had a
days
week?
later.
Yeah, 4 days
or
later?
we had like 4 days later. So I go into Sean. Here's what happened. I went to Sean. He shot a steroid
I was going to say to give
injection
you
into
the
me.
magic little.
And this is the ear, nose, and throat doctor, Bobby, to Celine Dion and Sting and like big
I
people.
was going to ask you for
Tom
his
Petty.
name, but this guy charges a fortune.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's worth it when you need your voice back. But he said this is going to open you up and you're going to feel great because the steroid shot is just going to jack you to the moon. He said, I give you what I'd give a horse. So it didn't work. And I felt awful. He said, wow, you're really in bad shape. He said, go home and don't speak. I mean, not one sound for 3 days. So I go home.
Try 2.5 weeks.
And for 3 days, I did not utter a sound.
But like everyone's texting nowadays, at least you have that.
So he texted me and he said, how is your voice doing? And I said, I have
don't
no
know.
idea. I followed it because there's so much on the line. There's so much at stake here.
Got to play by the rules.
Yeah. So after 3 days, it was fine. But it's weird how you take it for granted, but I guess it's a fairly fragile instrument.
Well, it's like your hearing. That's why I was asking you, not for my voice, because my voice works fine. It doesn't sound good, but my hearing, my girlfriend and my daughter and my late wife, so I'm deaf. From years of playing the drums or banging the drums, I wouldn't call it playing, and I would blast my Walkman and my iPad at the gym for years. So I'm not blaming anybody but myself. So my hearing's shot, and I love watching Netflix with the closed caption, because I don't know. I mean, it's really hard for me to hear.
So the eyesight's okay? Voice is shot, ears are shot, but eyesight's are okay?
Eyesight's, well, I'm wearing glasses, aren't I? But that's what kept my marriage together for years. I couldn't see or hear her. I wouldn't put my glasses on at home, so I couldn't hear her. All we needed was a doctor to tell my wife, just don't talk for 3 days, and have him do that every week to her. Somehow convince him to do that. My marriage would have been great.
Bobby's like calling our doctor, say, tell her I can't talk for 3 days.
No,
it's
a
medical condition.
Yeah.
Or I can't talk. That way you don't have to talk to her. Yeah.
Oh, yes, you can.
Yeah, it's a shame. Did they air the 22 episodes?
They aired
of
the
show?
22 episodes, and
nobody watched it.
And the way they do it is, well, the numbers just weren't strong on that Sunday night. And then once you open to a mediocre number, then they move the show to another night because it was just a debut night. It wasn't supposed to run on Sunday nights, so then they move it to Friday night. Well, Friday night's just like such a tough place to to launch a show. Yeah, and then once they start double running it, where they're going, okay. Hole in the Wall runs at 8, and then another episode at 8:30, and then another episode at 9. You realize they're just trying to burn them off. Yeah.
When I was on that show, it was a different story, but Mind of the Married Man on HBO. I don't know if you remember that.
Sure, that was Mike Binder's show. You were really good on that.
And it was on, I know, and it was on between The Sopranos, arguably one of the greatest shows in the history of television. It was getting great ratings. So it was on between that and Larry David's show, Curb Your Enthusiasm. And those shows were doing great. Our show was in between the two, and nobody was watching it. And I'm going, well, was it that bad? I thought it was really good.
Was it a half hour or an hour?
It was a half-hour show. But so The Sopranos are on, well, I think from 9 to 10. Our show was on from 10 to 10:30, and then Curb was on. And Curb was doing great, and everybody, you see Curb last night, you see Sopranos. Yeah, what about my show?
They went to the bathroom. They went to the market. They ran out and ran some errands.
Yeah. Well, it was about guys that cheated on their wives, and I think a lot of men would shut it off because they didn't have an argument with their wife about, I don't know what it was.
It is, that's some funny. First of all, that thing that you did, Bobby was kind of in the core group of guys that got together and hung out and talked at the bar over pool, all that stuff. That, I thought, oddly, was the best part of the show. I say oddly because it's centered around this marriage, but I actually thought the more interesting thing was the guy stuff. Yeah.
That's because we liked it. It was a guy show. Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway, but more to what you just said, it is true. When you're there with your girlfriend or wife and you're watching a show and something happens, or you're watching a comic and he does some bit about sex or something, you get that thing, which is sort of, what about that? Or what, where now this
You'd never do that to me, now would you?
Yeah, or you know what I mean? I mean, it's like it becomes
women do that, and my girlfriend's done this, and my wife's done this, and I think I've heard comics talk about this, and I'm sure you've experienced this, Mark. Your girlfriend, wife, whatever, has a dream that you're cheating on her, and she wakes up in the morning, she's mad at you. I dreamt you were cheating at me with this hot blonde with giant breasts. But and what are you mad about? It's your dream. It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. And
how could you do that to me?
Yeah, this is unbelievable.
Have you never done that? Have you ever got mad?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You get mad at your boyfriend or husband for a dream you're having for something that never took place. My girlfriend said that to me. She said that to me last month. She goes, I had this horrible nightmare that you would cheat on me and you went to Vegas with your friends and you were like on a private jet and you went to the Bunny Ranch and you had sex with all these hookers. It was the worst nightmare ever. And I said to her, it's interesting that your nightmare is my dream.
Soon to become your nightmare, though.
This just happened 2 days ago in my life. My girlfriend, she wakes up annoyed, just as you said, and also like scared or anxious or something. And I go, what's? And she said, I had the most horrible dream. You're with these two girls and you're making out with them right in front of me. I'm right there.
Rude.
And she said, I couldn't believe you were doing that. I said, honey, I wasn't doing that. That's a dream you're having.
She watched you do it anyways.
But it was just what Bobby's talking about. It's insanity.
You
and it
really
was like
that.
She couldn't stop talking about it because it was so real.
See, that's what's great about the fact that my girlfriend's petrified that I'm going to do girlfriend jokes. And because
about her.
Well, she's very shy, very quiet, she's very private. She doesn't want, she's dating the right guy. So, but she's always has this fear that I'm going to make fun of her on stage. And I said, well, she goes, well, you did that to your late wife all the time. And I said, well, my late wife didn't really like to have sex a lot, and she never cooked for me, and she didn't give me back rubs all the time. You do all those things. There's nothing that I can do right now. I can't make fun of you, but if you happen to deviate from the plan and stop doing those things, Then you'll see fire
you're
and
screwed.
fury like this world has never seen. So now she has sex with me more out of fear than love. But at my age, as long as she's putting out, what do I care?
Right?
Yeah,
See,
right.
she's smart. She's a smart gal. She's
You're a
keeping it
bottom line
quiet.
guy. Yeah.
And that's why stand-up comedy. When you asked me to come on the show, which I love doing, I have nothing to plug. I'm not working a lot in the next few months. I don't have any gigs coming in, which is fine. So I'm so sick of doing stand-up. And it's not that I'm tired of doing stand-up. I did it for 40 years. But audiences are becoming so stupid and so politically correct. And all these millennial college kids and all these Republicans and all these, whatever they are, drunks. People, you think people would become more educated and learn how to behave better in public now? And they're not, and they don't. And it's awful.
I was going to ask you how maybe your routine had changed over the years for a variety of reasons, but because you used to do some risque stuff back then. But I mean, I say risque back then because
Risque. So I
now
feel like I'm in burlesque. I used to pull up those pants, show the garter, and do the can.
No, because I watched a couple of old videos and I was like, oh, like you on Johnny Carson even back then, like some of that stuff. I'm just saying, material-wise, all that stuff right now, people will just be like yelling at you off stage. He should be fired. He should never be allowed back.
It's amazing. When Fallon got the Tonight Show, I had done his old show when he was on Late Night, and I wanted to do his new show. First of all, I don't work good in those little 5-minute. I don't like doing 5 minutes. And what's your opening joke? What's your closing joke? And, you have to hit your mark and do exactly 4.5 minutes. And, and that joke's not going to work. And that joke's too dirty. And that joke won't pass network standards. You can't mention drugs. You can't mention a product. And they're a sponsor. And I'm going, this is just stupid. And they finally said to me, because Jimmy wanted me, he's an old friend of mine. And they said, Bobby, look, we're only using, young comics and new comics and really famous comics. And I said, fine, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. And it doesn't do any good to do 4 minutes on the Tonight Show. It used to be good when Johnny Carson was on. And I have friends that did 30, 40 Lettermans, and they can't get work anymore because there are kids now that go to comedy clubs that don't even know who David Letterman was.
Right.
And they don't care.
When you did Carson, did that blow up your world for a while?
No. I only did one Carson, and then he quit. He announced his retirement. They said to me, I finally got on the show after Kevin Pollak, Dana Carvey, all our friends. And they finally put me on. And they called me up and they said, we're going to put you on the show, but Johnny might not be here that night. And I said, you know what? Then I don't want to do it. I don't want to do my first Carson show with McLean Stevenson or my friend even David Brenner or whoever's. I don't even want to do it with Joan Rivers. I want to do it with Johnny Carson. And they said, oh, it turns out he's going to be here. So I did the show. And they called me up the next day. Say, oh, Johnny loved you. Can't wait to have you back. And literally, if it wasn't that day, it was a day or two later. He announced his retirement. He says, I'm quitting 1 year from today, retiring. And I try to get back on the show. And they go, Bobby, everybody wants to get on the show. So, the lady who saw faces and the pretzels and the cookies and Lonnie Anderson and whoever, right? Every idiot in the world would get on that show again before me.
When you were backstage waiting to do that show, though, the one time, by then you'd waited and maybe it wasn't as important to you, but it still was very important, I can imagine. Did you have that feeling like, wow, this is really going to happen? Or kind of had you been around long enough that you didn't even feel that way anymore? You can't build it up like it's going to be a big thing because there were a lot of idiots that did the Tonight Show. Not every comic was a great, great, great comic. Everybody did pretty well. If you can't do well your first time on the Tonight Show, your first time on with 5 minutes, then you're really not worthy of calling yourself a professional stand-up comedian. You're saying if you can't carve good 5 minutes out of your act, then you don't have an act.
And the other ones they're putting you on is because they saw the 5 minutes. Right. And Jim McCauley, the late Jim McCauley, was really good at deciding what Johnny would like, what would be right for the show. He didn't make that many mistakes. He knew what Carson would like, what comics Carson would like. So when I finally got on, I had 1 week to put this set together. And every night I went to Igby's Comedy Club here in L.A., which is gone. I went to the Comedy Store, to the Improv. I did it in my shower. I did it backwards in case there was a blackout, in case there was an earthquake. I would do the jokes from the middle. I'd write them down. I'd write them down backwards. There was no way that I was going to screw this up. The jokes were too good. And I knew and I waited too long. And they had a bar backstage to get a drink or two.
Did you have a drink or two before you went on?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I had maybe 1 or 2 shots of vodka. I didn't want to get buzzed. But there was like a bar cart right by the stage, right on the stage, right by the curtain. So you can have a drink. I mean, if you watch a show, sometimes acts would have, I think most of them were professional enough where they wouldn't get,
That changed, though, later on. That's why they ended up, what did they do? I think they stopped, sorry to cut you off.
Kimmel's show they stopped with that.
No, I think it was still when Leno was back over here next door at NBC, I think they stopped. Did they stop serving drinks or they stopped letting people leave? Like you come, like bands would come and set up early, then they would all go across the street to Acapulco and get wasted, and then come back and just be a hot mess. Or they couldn't find the people because they're just roaming around the neighborhood, like getting shit faced.
When I did Arsenio and I think George Lopez's show and I think Joan Rivers' show, I think they all had alcohol backstage. I don't think there was any reason to go anywhere. They had a beautiful,
nice
green
setup.
room with plenty of snacks and cups and T-shirts and drinks. But anyway, so before I went on, Macaulay was standing with me, and he was, he's about to open the curtain for the comic, and I think he made a little comment to try to, screw around with me. I said, 10 million people watching. Are your parents watching? I go, Jim, don't mess with me. That ain't gonna work. I got it. I got it. Went out there and it killed. And Johnny was on the floor. And just because my girlfriend was standing there next to Freddie DeCordova, she said he was dying and he had his tie in his mouth. And Freddie DeCordova, they were all laughing. And, I thought I'd get called over to the couch. But it was not a big deal.
But I have to say, your material is the kind of material that Carson would spark too, because it was edgy and, really you were aggressive. You wasn't safe.
He was going to have me back, but then he retired. Mind of the Married Man. It was a great show. Nobody watched it. Story of my life, So what happens after 45 years of comedy? A Christmas show for Mark Thompson's, what is this, a podcast? What are we doing here?
Did he tell you he doesn't pay anything?
No, but I feel like I'm doing something. I feel like I'm doing something showbiz. And you know what? What I was going to say before about stand-up comedy, it's not that I've totally lost interest in it because audiences are so horrendous, but I'm very happy these days, with my girlfriend and
all
I got
that
a nice
sex.
house. And it's not, I can't think of jokes anymore. I'm too happy. I'm miserable that I'm
Well,
this happy.
your house, your house is stunning. Your house is one of my favorite houses I've ever been in.
It's not big. But I don't want people to think it's a big house. It's not a big house.
The vista, it looks out over the whole valley.
It's a nice house.
It's gorgeous. And then the backyard is like a Four Seasons. I'm not kidding. There's a lower pool and then there's an upper. What do you call that?
It's called the deck.
No, there's a
Comedy
deck.
paid well.
No, there's a deck also. But
jacuzzi?
There's a deck. Then down to a lower pool, and then over to what is that called? It's like it's not a loggia, but it's a thing which is.
It's a whorehouse.
Like some kind of veranda or some kind of
it's like it. You're getting warm.
A cabana?
Yeah, it's like a cabana, right?
I don't know what there is.
Anyway, it's really nice.
It's not
it's
as
like
nice, he said, but it's nice. I forget how nice my house is. And again, it's not a big house, but it's just great. And my girlfriend, she wants to sell her house and my house and get a house together. And I'm thinking that would be great. But there's something about cutting Samson's hair and, something about, listening to the broad and,
I love how Bobby still says broad, like it's 1950.
There ain't nothing like a dame, nothing with I can explain. That is anything like a dame. What was that from? Guys and Dolls? What was that from? There ain't nothing like it. By the way, it's like, what was that big thing on the internet about the radio station where in Cleveland? I'm sure you read that story.
About the Christmas song they yanked? Baby, it's cold outside.
Baby, it's cold outside. Mm-hmm. Stay here, and whole idea of drugging her and raping her. Will you get it? Will you stop reading this stuff? And it's so moronic.
That was a bit much, wasn't it, Lisa?
I mean, I didn't. I'm not a person who spends the time to dissect songs and pick them apart and see what's wrong with everything. I mean, it was a different time, but I understand people want to be,
not people
moving forward.
Women
would be sensitive,
and millennials, and
sensitive to it.
Not regular people.
Sensitive, but it was a different time back then. So
well, here's what I would just say about that. It's one thing if it was a different time and they're singing about, slavery, and it's like those songs have to be banished forever. This song isn't even about Me Too-ish stuff, is it? I mean, isn't this song...
I didn't dissect it, so to be honest.
I got to say, I didn't either. I just thought this is 1940s. They wrote this song. It's not about... But I guess people go, no, it really is about him kind of pressuring some woman to stay,
Well, that's every guy does that.
It's a guy thing.
Happy holidays.
Well, I didn't dissect the song, but that's kind of the vibe of the song, but I
it's
don't
just
listen to
ridiculous,
Yeah.
Santa Claus is.
It's seductive. It's like the guy trying to get laid. That's what you people do.
That's what we do. You
and
people.
Sometimes
I remember when you people were blacks. You people, those people.
Along.
That was all men. Yeah, but people are just ultra sensitive, and I understand the Me Too movement. I understand why black people are afraid of the police. I understand why a lot of things go on because it's a horrible world we live in, filled with horrible people. I understand why there's security at the airport because there's awful people out there. The human race has let me down on every level, but you got to give people a break over some of this stuff. It's getting crazy, you know?
Well, it's like you can't do or say anything because someone's going to be like, see, there he goes again. Like, oh my gosh.
Well, that's the
I
one
can't say
thing
anything.
that when I do stand-up, people get to have you, because you said to me, have you had to change your act at all? Have you had to change this? And I go the other way because people that go to comedy clubs should be expecting this, you know? And, you know, it's always been people, if you're going to go see a Friday the 13th movie, don't get upset when Jason decides to stab the camp counselor. You know, I mean, this is what happens in these movies. Don't be surprised when James Bond, you know, tries to, you know, flirt with a woman and take her to bed. I mean, it's James Bond. It's Jason. This is the kind of movie. So when you go to a comedy club, you should expect the comic. It's not television. There's a million things you can watch on Netflix. And so I go out of my way to piss off people. I shouldn't say that. I want to make people laugh, but if somebody's going to get upset of it, I like to push buttons.
But if you're going so over the top, I mean, that's kind of funny too, because now it seems like it's taboo again. So it's funny because you're probably writing the jokes well and delivering them well.
Yes.
That people are like, oh my God, no, he didn't. Oh, no. But they're laughing while they're saying it. You know, like, oh, he went there. Oh my gosh.
Well, and you also, the audience that comes to Bobby's show or who sees Bobby on the bill and looks forward to seeing him,
know what they're getting.
They would be disappointed if Bobby didn't go right out. You know, it's like, oh my God, what's happened to Slayton? They've defanged him.
He's gone soft.
That's what I get people in the front row. They get mad after the show. I wasn't there to be part of the show. I can't believe you made fun of me and my wife, and you attacked my son. And we're not part of the show. And then if I don't do it, and people come up because they think I'm like this Don Rickles type of guy, which I guess I am, one of my heroes. I love the guy, and. We got here early, just sit in front of you and pick on us. Didn't say a word to us. So it's like, damned if I do, damned if I don't. I can't win.
Attack me, Slayton.
I can't win.
Attack me.
I can't win. Can't win.
You know, Woody Allen is a friend of Bobby's. Or I would say, I don't know, is he a friend? Could you text him right now if you wanted to?
No, I don't have his number. I could text his best friend who could call Woody. But there's another example of my career. Woody put me in his last movie, which nobody saw. Wonder Wheel.
I saw it, and I liked it.
Nobody liked it. I liked it.
I liked it. Of course,
you know,
this happens to me. I get drunk on Bobby, and so I lose track. Then I start reading the reviews and see that people didn't really like it. Oh, my God. I'm thinking maybe... Anyway, go ahead.
No, they did another movie called A Rainy Day in New York with... but Amazon is thinking about not releasing it because of all the allegations against Woody, which I don't think are true, but that's a whole nother radio show. But... so they don't want to. So they haven't released a movie yet because of all the controversy about what may or may not have happened with him and his daughter and all that. But so that movie. So when I did the one before that, and I did an Amazon show for him on Prime called Crisis in 6 Scenes. Miley Cyrus is in it, and Elaine May made her big comeback.
Oh yeah, you were great in that.
Awful reviews.
Oh my God, you were great though.
I had one great scene. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
In the
it was
deli?
a long scene with Woody.
What was you had a scene in the deli of an early
in the deli,
scene?
yeah. It was a really hard scene. It was the hardest thing I've had to do in my life. And Lewis Black had a couple of good scenes. Judy Gold, very funny comic. She had a good scene. My scene was really, really long. It was like 6 or 7 pages. And for a guy that's got ADD or whatever I have, I call myself retarded, but you can't use that word anymore. And I'm certainly not special, so I don't know what to call myself. I don't know what words. But it was the hardest thing I've had to. I worked with 2 acting coaches who both said to me, this is really hard for a real actor. I'm not sure how you're going to do it. This is going to be a real challenge for you.
Because what, they want to do one shot?
No, it wasn't one shot. Scene? No. It turned out to be really easy. I had 2 months to work on it, and I shot it a week after my wife passed away. And it was the emotional roller coaster of being in New York for a week, getting ready to do it right after my wife died, and working with Woody, the excitement and the depression. It was really bizarre. It was the most bizarre week of my life. And
But the actual scene was just you talking to Woody Allen, and
we shot it so quickly. It's just me and Woody.
And I have to say, I even remarked to someone, gosh, he's so natural. It's like just absolutely feels like a conversation between Bobby and this guy.
Well,
you know?
what was interesting about it was that Woody was playing this neurotic, crazy character, so he wasn't really answering me. It was almost like a monologue, and he was just babbling incoherently, which he was supposed to be. You know, he wasn't making any sense. You know, when you act, like I'm giving people acting tips now and acting lessons and acting information. But, you know, somebody says, hello, how are you? I'm fine, how are you? And they answer you, so you don't have to memorize the lines because you know what they're going to say. But Woody's character was all over the place. So now what I said to him, he said something different. So I really, really, really had to memorize this. And it took me, talking about working on that Tonight Show set, it was 2 months. Thank God I had 2 months to work on it. And I worked on it every night like we were shooting it the next day. And I sat in my jacuzzi, and I went to bed, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I was having panic attacks. And we're going to shoot it, And Woody, I said, I'm really nervous working with you. And, and even though he's a friend of mine, don't worry about it. You screw up, you screw up. Who cares? We shoot it 20 times. We had it in an hour. And we were.
Wow.
And I walked back to my hotel room, which was 2 blocks from the deli where we shot, maybe 3 blocks away. And I said, I know there's a great wine store on the way back. And I went in there, just give me a great bottle of red. It doesn't have to be expensive. I just want a great bottle of red, 50, 60, 70, whatever, 100. Just give me an amazing bottle of red. And I went back and I just sucked it down. I couldn't wait to take that makeup off.
You're like,
I don't know how women wear makeup. I couldn't wait to wash your makeup up and drink the wine. It's like a $50 bottle of wine. I should be drinking it with a steak or something. I literally put it in a plastic cup and I'm going, it was the greatest bottle of wine I ever had in my life.
That's so great. That's a great story. I mean,
it was like I got a call from the governor. You got a reprieve. You're out of here. But that's what I was going to tell you. That so I do the thing with Woody, and Steve Sharippa was also in that movie, Wonder Wheel. And Sharippa said he talked to Woody, and Woody said, I love Bobby Slayton. He's a great actor. I can't wait to put Bobby in my next film. And he's great. And then right after this whole thing went down with Amazon, Woody said he's taking a break from doing film. So right when I'm finally, after all these great actors and all these amazing people, the greatest actors in the world.
And he's saying your best scene ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's taking a break. Great. And the Tonight Show gets canceled. And Mind the Merry Man goes off. And where am I? Happy holidays with the Mark Thompson podcast with his 50 imaginary listeners that nobody gives a rat's ass about.
Oh, yeah, does anyone listen, Mark?
But thank you.
Just a handful of people, but they really listen carefully, the people who do.
Yeah.
Wait, so nothing to the Comedy Store or the Laugh Factory anytime soon? Swing on by.
Nothing.
Do a little...
I don't. Here's the thing.
You could play there if you wanted to.
I could play anywhere. Not Carnegie
You can
Hall.
just show up unannounced. What do you mean? It's Bobby Slayton.
Believe me, man.
Oh my
I
God.
can play anywhere.
They just have to announce me. No, I don't. You know what? Again, I live in Sherman Oaks, and every once in a while, I took 4 monds off of work, and I went down to the Comedy Store one night, and the Improv one night. By the time I leave my house and I drive down there, it's 45 minutes. And I was, because I'm very anal, I get there early, wait around for half an hour, do my 10 minutes, and I go, okay, I didn't forget how to do this, and just go home. And I go, that was a 3-hour process. I could have been home in bed watching television.
But when you're doing that, even though you do it very occasionally, do you hang out and watch some of the other acts?
Never.
You don't. You really don't.
Why?
Because I don't like to. I'm sick of watching comedy.
And you don't watch on Netflix the new specials
a little bit.
comes out?
But, I watch Netflix a little, and I see some great comics like Bill Burr or, Louis C.K. when he was doing it, or, Chappelle or Chris Rock, and I'll watch them. Those guys, God, those guys are great. It depresses me a little. God, I did that joke. Or, I should have thought of that joke. Or, And then I watch horrible comics. Go, why are they on television? Why are these douchebags on television? How did they get a special? So between the great comics and the crappy comics, it just depresses me to watch.
What do you think about Ellen DeGeneres going back into it?
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm really happy for her.
I love her.
I like Ellen. There's nothing wrong with that.
We came up with Ellen in San Francisco. She was a big deal in San Francisco.
She was. I remember talking about her on the radio all the time up there.
I cannot.
As well.
There's no way to not like Ellen. She's like Jerry Seinfeld. What's not to like?
Well, I also think, not like, her act makes me laugh. She is funny. She used to tell those long stories that are all very, very funny. I remember when she was coming up in San Francisco, she really was one of my favorite comics.
You tell long stories. You just got to try to make them funny. You can be the next Ellen DeGeneres.
Maybe. Oh, you could write for him. Maybe.
Ellen DeGeneres is like you with a penis. She's the one with the penis, not you.
I got it. I got it the first time. Didn't need to explain, but thank you nonetheless.
Okay, no problem.
Have you ever written for anybody, or do you ever write and
No.
say no? That's not your thing.
No, my girlfriend said if you can do a stand-up, you should write for other people. That's not my thing.
No. I because you have a certain voice, like a certain, don't you think, comedic voice?
Oh,
and
yeah.
you would, I don't think you can necessarily
A romantic comedic voice.
Yeah, romantic comedic voice. So I always ask you this: you don't do New Year's shows anymore.
I'm doing a New Year's show this year. I'm doing a quick show at a place called Caps Bar and Grill in Brentwood, California. Not the Brentwood here in L.A. The Brentwood up in a beautiful little club. I'm going to drive up there with my buddy Robert Duchesne. We're going to do. It's a great little place. And it wasn't a lot of money. I said, but they wanted me, and I said, okay, why not?
Wow, this is a change for you. Usually, you're complaining about working on New Year's.
Oh, I'm complaining. I always complain about it. I'm saying it's a great place. I'm not happy about it. But you know what happens if I don't work New Year's Eve? Then I wake up the next morning in bed with my girlfriend and go, God, I could have made a couple of grand last night. It sucks.
Yeah.
So at least I know. I go up, I do the show, drive back, New Year's Day. We go out to the valley, Go to a little French restaurant we love. And
Where's Brentwood, California, Lisa?
it's out right, but now we're
It's
outside
a
Oakland.
newer. It wasn't there when we were growing up, or when we were living in the Bay. It is. Where is it?
What do you mean it
near?
wasn't there?
No, it's a newer city that was created later.
Yeah, Bobby.
Oh, they have an old, very old downtown.
I mean, maybe it was attached to something. I'm just saying Brentwood was one of those cities like Livermore. Livermore was way out in the middle of nowhere growing up, and then Livermore became an actual city where they just put in all these houses and schools, and just suddenly it's
but
like,
they still have
it's
the
a city.
downtown, old-fashioned Main Street for when Livermore was actually a horse town. I think Brentwood has a beautiful old movie theater. It's got
Maybe there's a little small something than before, but now it's like this big bustling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You go right outside the little downtown, and there's a Kmart and a Target and the condos. Yeah, but the downtown has this cool little old bar, restaurant. And so we're going to go do that. And
how did they find you, or how did you know about this, or how did this happen?
How did I get a gig? He shot
No.
How did you get a gig? How did this happen that you got a gig? Why are you
How
supposed
did you?
to punch
No, you're talking about this little place that is so charming and cute,
Somebody
and
called
yet
me.
somehow this.
They called me. They found me.
Wow,
People
that's
find
great.
me. Same way you found me. If you have nobody else to do your little podcast, you find me. Find me. Bobby, I'll call you in a few weeks. Let me see who else. Is his way of saying, let me see if I can get anybody else. And if not, I'll call you for the Christmas show again. It turns out this time of year it's impossible to get people. So he always settles on me, which is fine. I'm used to it. But you know what? It's great. The holidays, besides that New Year's Eve show, me and the girlfriend are just staying home Christmas Eve. And I'm making her pizza with caviar, Wolfgang Puck's Pizza.
Nice.
We'll go on this giant television I just bought. We'll watch the Springsteen Netflix on Broadway special. And then I can't believe my girlfriend wanted to do this. New Year's Day, got food in the house, and we're just going to watch Blu-ray Twilight Zone marathon. She goes, I could watch 30 or 40 of those. I go, really, you think so? She wants to watch from dawn till
Wow.
People get into that. People get into that.
Can't
And
believe my
you watch
girlfriend's
it.
doing that,
You
though.
watch it on Blu-ray for real?
Yeah. I got it. Well, I
Wow.
just bought all the Blu-rays. I'll give it to you when I'm done.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you see, this wasn't really a waste of time. I've just walked away with a new Blu-ray player.
There you go.
What is Lisa? What is your plan for New Year?
Going to the Bay Area for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
And then New Year.
Going up to the Bay Area, and then New Year's usually rock and rallies.
Yeah, because I have to say this. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just want to mention, and then let you continue, that Lisa's sort of a restaurant bar impresaria, aren't you?
I'm one of many friend investors in an Irish pub on the Sunset Strip by the Whiskey Go-Go. So I lost my butt in my first restaurant in Santa Monica. I'm still,
that was
still
the
bitter about it.
nicest restaurant,
I
though.
know.
What was that place?
Well, essentially, some friends and I bought it was the old Schatzi on Schwarzenegger's place. It was the old Schatzi on Main.
Oh, God, Shotzi. Oh, my God, I remember that. God, he's
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah,
But
so
they
I forgot about
expanded it.
that.
It was much bigger than Schatzi used to be, right?
well, it was all redecorated, so it was still the same, square footage, but essentially it looked all different. 'cause-
Shotzi was right next to the place with the big clown, right?
right. No, not
The
far.
ballerina clown? Was
Just
it
down the
this-
way. That's where Chaya
yeah,
is.
yeah.
it's right
Yeah,
across the
Chaya
street.
Venice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
God, I
so
forgot about that. Since I live in the valley now, I forgot about all those places I used to go to.
Yeah, but this is a beautiful place. I mean, I'm not. It seemed like it was expensive, but expensive to do it all. I mean, I don't.
yeah,
remember
it's
how much-
expensive when you raise tons of money from all of your friends and then you mess it all up and spend it all on a crazy kind of.
It messed up because they wasted the money. You think?
It was a series of mistakes and things that were mishandled.
The restaurant business, very tough.
It's very tough. Everyone told me not to put money into it, but I got very, very involved, and I kept writing more checks because now I'm really, really a part of it, and I'm very invested. And we found out some shady things were happening. So that was the first incarnation. So then from that, a group came who had a ton of money, and they're like, "We're not getting screwed out of this." And then they created the second version of it, Cachet. Which you also saw with an incredible the chef from Melise, and it was all amazing.
Wow.
And then we finally got it right. Finally got the look. Finally got the chef. Finally got the menu. It was all perfect. Then the whole the economy crashed.
Oh, in 08.
Yeah.
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 Oh, yeah.
So,
I think it was
everybody lost everything.
I actually think maybe it was Cachet that I thought was so amazing.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was
Yep.
stunning.
We finally got it right, and then the market crashed.
Yeah.
So
Now Rockin' Riley's, and that's
7 years. It's been 7 years for Rock and Raleigh, small little Irish pub, and then my partner's opened up. I think there's like 6 more locations now, but I just stuck to the one.
Do they spin checks off to you every month?
Oh, it's constant. No, they pay me in beer now. I mean,
Because I also am a victim of the restaurant investment thing, and
it hurts.
It just
hurts.
the money goes in, it doesn't seem to ever come out.
Yeah, I got enough back to where I'm not too pissed off at anybody. They're not afraid to see me. They're like, "Oh, hey, she's here. Don't charge her." No.
Yeah, the restaurant screw-over job that I got is so buried under all the other screw jobs I've got for way more that it doesn't even
You
show
should be
on
way
the
more
radar.
pissed off than you are. You're way too nice.
No. No.
I just as soon just piss my money away spending money in restaurants. At least know when I walk out of there, got a good meal.
That's
You know where your money went. You
Bobby
know?
got more out of
Invested.
the restaurant business than we did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Well, I love seeing you, Bobby, and I feel as though there's a little extra Yuletide cheer this year because you have stopped in to see us.
I didn't really have any stories about the holidays. I'm not doing anything special. I'm just, like I said, the fact that my girlfriend just wants to. I go to the Laugh Factory, I feed the homeless. We take a little break from watching The Twilight Zone. I always like doing that. And
The
lay in
Laugh
bed.
Factory does that. They feed the homeless on.
It's pretty much. It's not just really the homeless. There's a lot of families, a lot of crazy people. It's comics. But the Laugh Factory opens its doors Thanksgiving and Christmas. Jamie Masada is great. He's a saint, but he has I think the church helping him and some investors on it. But they have real turkey, real cranberries. I mean, it's an incredible meal. So I just like to go and serve and clean up, and then to tell jokes to those people. They give them like a 45-minute show. It's not the easiest crowd.
With all the plates clanking and all the noise.
No, it's like paper plates, but you got lunatics yelling at you and talking to themselves, and you got children, so you try to work pretty clean, and it's families, and but it's you go up there knowing you're not going to do great, but it's part of the thing. So I do.
You do your kids' birthday party set?
Not quite. Not quite.
I would love to see it. That would be next year. I may come down just to see you work that room.
Well, it's fun because you say
with all your
things and
other
you
friends,
realize,
yeah.
you got to be thankful for what you have, and you realize, oh, never mind, you people have nothing. I take that back. And then, how many of you lost your shopping carts from the big fire? And,
see, there it is.
Come on,
there it is.
some of them don't even know you're making fun of them.
Folks,
so.
this is what I do. Are you kidding? Yeah. Oh.
All right, I got to go home to the girlfriend now.
Listen, Bobby, we love you. Thank you, Lisa. We love you even more. Thank you for coming by. If you want to follow Bobby, you can do it on Twitter at Pitbull of Comedy. Isn't that it?
I think so. By the way, happy birthday, Keith Richards.
That's right. He's 75.
75. Quit drinking, too.
He looks like he's been awake for every minute of the 75 years, though, doesn't he, Bobby?
God bless him. He looks the greatest living testimonial to drug abuse on the face of this earth.
Great book he wrote.
Great book.
Yeah.
Didn't he say he was just taking a break from drinking? He didn't quit. He said he's taking a break. That's what I read.
I know Bobby's dying the door just to go meet his girlfriend, but I just want to mention, because I want to leave everybody on an upper, Penny Marshall died today, 75.
Finally.
I know. Oh, my gosh, you guys. Stop it. She's my
It's
favorite.
so long. Come on.
No, my
I
girlfriend said that. I
you.
said that. She was, you're horrible. No, she was lovely.
Yeah, Penny Marshall was lovely, of course.
I loved her.
We'll all stipulate to that. All right.
Now, how many people should be dead? There's a lot of people who should be dead, and there's a lot of people that die that shouldn't be dead.
So true. It's so true.
Save that wish list for next time, maybe, huh?
Yeah.
And
And by
70.
the way, let me ask you, how do they do this? How do they do this, by the way? Because Kimmel did it the other night, and they do this. They have these end of the year, all the people that died. So, so I think they did a thing the other night. So Penny Marshall died this year, but she wasn't in the thing. Burt Reynolds, Aretha Franklin, they do all these things at the end of the year, but then there's still another week or two. And what about the people? And it doesn't roll over to the next year.
No,
because
it
they'll go,
doesn't.
all the people have died in 2018.
Oh,
so
they
Penny
just-
Marshall just died, and she did get on it. She might
That's
get
a
on.
great point. Sure. You're saying that there's that if you end up in the gap, the few week gap, you are not
Yeah.
recognized
Love.
of having passed away.
Very often, like the LA Times or Newsweek magazine or whatever, all the people we lost. And it's always a day or a week or even 2 weeks before the end of the year. So all those people that died at the end of the year get screwed. That's going to happen to me. I'm going to, and then here's one I always love too. When they do the Academy Awards, they tell people not to clap anymore at the deaths,
Right, because one death gets more applause than another.
Right.
It is awkward.
So there's some people that when they get applause, you go, well, are you happy they're dead? Maybe they're happy they're dead. Like when I die, there'll be a lot of applause, not because they miss me. Oh, that guy is finally gone. That guy,
Give the people what they want. And that's
Remember
what you
Jim
get.
Vern? Hey, Vern. When he died, they clapped a lot. I'm going, he got a lot of claps, more than whoever really great actors
Right,
died.
some
that
great
year.
cinematographer who no one has heard of. Yeah.
And I think maybe they're happy he died. That's why they're clapping. So you don't know what the clapping's for.
Well, TCM, Turner Classic Movies, they put out that montage that you're talking about with all the deaths. And some of them, it's, really, some people you've never heard of. And a lot of people go, oh, my God, I didn't realize that's right. They did that. But that was about a week ago. So, yeah, you're right.
They did do it.
Penny
Yeah.
Marshall didn't make that montage.
Right. And if, what if I die this week? I probably wouldn't make it anyway.
Byron's on vacation, so see, there's not even know.
That scene that you did with Woody Allen, a portion of that will be run when you pass away.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I'll die earlier in the year.
Yeah, be montage friendly with
my
your
girlfriend's late husband was a major movie producer and manager. He got screwed at the Academy Awards. They never mentioned him.
It is also, that's true. It's kind of the neighborhood you die in, meaning if you die around a lot of other bigger people who die, then you get lost. Right?
Well, no, because you got a lot of guys that get mentioned and nothing. Like you said, cinematographers are not little people you wouldn't know necessarily.
Right, but I'm saying a big producer might not be included if they're stacked up with bigger stars or bigger names type thing. I don't know. Anyway, I know
what's going to happen. I'm going to die the same year as Carrot Top, but he's going to get mentioned and I'm not.
May you live a long time, Bobby Slayton. Yeah. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Bobby. Bye, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Thanks, Bobby.
As I said at the beginning of this episode, thank you so much for being here. Always appreciate you being here and very much appreciate you downloading the episode. Any positive comments you can leave on iTunes or Stitcher. iTunes is the place where you can leave some comments, even a word or two, and 5-star rating. That helps us so much. It just keeps us alive in that universe of podcasts. And now with so many people with podcasts, so many different flavors of podcasts, it's just more important than ever that you show us a little love. So thank you again. With all my heart, I say this. I wish you health and happiness in the new year and beyond. Thank you for being part of this community of listeners, and Happy New Year. Until next time, bye-bye.
Oh, okay. Let me just, It's just something. There we go. Yeah. I want to thank you for all the ways that you support my friends on the Edge podcast. And if you haven't already, why don't you show your support and subscribe? What's the matter with you? Go to Edge Show. Oh, it's Edge Dash. What's with the dash? Stupid. All right, I want to thank you for all the ways that you support my friends on the Edge podcast. To show your support and leave something on their website, edge-show.com. Stupid. Why is there a dash?
Hi, it's Robin Super here. Listen to past episodes and subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher to get future episodes. Or check out their website, edge-show.com.
edge-show.com.